This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Deleted. Me, 37 male, with my wife, 39 female, 16 and a half years. Just found out she's intending to leave me in New Year. My wife went off to her annual Christmas girl spa day this morning, whilst I took our boys 16 and 14 out for a Christmas shopping trip and boys day out. Soon after leaving, she phones to say that she's forgotten her brand credit card and could I bring it to the spa because they have an offer on with the brand. Not a problem, it was not far out of our way, so I went straight to her desk to get it out of the drawer and found a pile of papers from a family law solicitor. I just started to read them when she phones again saying that it's okay, she's found it in her purse. A lie, as it was in the desk. Not to bother and to enjoy my day with the boys. So I read the papers. I don't know what I thought, but could not resist reading them. We don't keep secrets from each other. I know this was wrong and they were her papers on her desk and I should have kept my nose out, but it wasn't our solicitor. From what I've read, she is intending to serve divorce papers on me on the 4th of January, asking me to move out of the family home and wants sole custody of the boys. Since then, I've opened her email and iMessage accounts, and she's been planning this for months. There's no one else involved as far as I can tell, but she is citing unreasonable behavior by me because it will be the quickest route. We earn about the same. Hers is more this year because of bigger firm-wide bonus, and the boys' school fees are taken care of by her parents, so she's banking on it being quick and easy. I've scanned everything and PDF'd all the emails onto my account, but don't know what to do next. I'm at a total loss. I've done the shopping bit with the boys and had crepes, a tradition. And right now they're watching Star Wars again. I'd seen it with them on Thursday very early in the morning, so had an excuse to duck out. I'm in a coffee shop trying to work out what to do next. I think I'll try to keep it as normal as possible for them. We have a load of things we do today, so we'll continue with all that, but really don't know what to say to my wife when we get home. My instinct is to say nothing, act calm and wait till I've seen a solicitor on Monday, but I'm not sure I can keep it up that long. Or I could get my mom to call and I could head up to her, which would take me out of the house for the rest of the weekend. Christmas is effed. Well, OP, in my opinion, I would say your gut feeling about acting calm and not doing anything until you talk to a lawyer is the best way to go. I'm pretty sure by now that you know that your marriage has no way of surviving this because she has been planning this for months. So this isn't just a spur of the moment, passionate kind of decision. She's thought about this, she's planned this out, and she's planning to railroad you after Christmas. Her little mishap has shown you her true colors. This is a chance for you to get everything ready so that when she does serve you, you are very well prepared. Of course, I don't know anything about the legal stuff that you could or could not do. That's what the lawyer is for. But up until you get some news from your attorney, you should not try to tip her off about anything and just act as normal as possible. Or at least that's what I would try to do if I was in a horrible situation like you are right now. So what about you guys? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Teresa JS says, go through the house and make copies of all financial documents possible. Bank statements, pay stub, retirement investments, everything you can find. You need to get a good lawyer, one who will fight for your rights without needlessly jacking up the costs. Ask your lawyer for advice. It may be detrimental to you for her to claim unreasonable behavior on your part. You may need to dispute that in some way. Also, you should not just roll over on either the custody or house. If she wants the house, she should buy out your equity in it. If she can't afford to do that, then ask for the house to be sold and the proceeds split. As I said, talk to your lawyer. As a general rule, being the reasonable partner who wants to split everything evenly is a reasonable approach. If you don't already, you'll want to have a bank account in only your name, and you'll want some cash in that account. Talk to your lawyer. But a good second step after seeing the lawyer would be to take half of every dollar in joint accounts and put it into accounts in just your name. Also, redirect your paychecks into just your accounts. Yes, this may alert her to something being up, but it's better to have cash in hand. And OP responds, everything financial is scanned and backed up to a server. We have separate personal accounts and joint household account which we both put equal share into to pay for living. Everything else is kept in our own names. We've never shared finances in that way. How to Do It says, quote, "Or I could get my mom to call and I could head up to her, which would take me out of the house for the rest of the weekend." End quote. Your wife called you the second time and lied because she realized that sending you to look through her desk for her credit card might reveal what she's planning. You really don't want her to know that you know. If you don't think you can fake it for the weekend, then think of a super plausible reason your mother would want you to spend time at her place until Monday. Once there, use your time wisely. Research lawyers, write down questions, decide how you want this divorce to go down, because it seems like your wife is set on it. Talk to a lawyer as soon as you can, Monday, no matter the costs. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. I wouldn't bring up divorce to her, just have everything ready in the event that she does so you can immediately respond and have protected yourself. Tleilachu Ashutl says, she called to ask you to find the credit card, then did a "I've made a huge mistake" face, and then called back to lie to you and that she already had it. Then she probably knows that you know about the papers now. And it won't be a surprise, the worst kind, anymore, which may move up her timeline on pulling out money or assets. I'd be careful. Well, apparently the community is in sync, knowing that OP's marriage has nowhere to go but divorce, so they are asking him to protect himself and call a lawyer. Of course, it's the reasonable thing to do. Now, before we move on to the update, I'd like to give you guys a little bit more context that I got from OP's responses to other comments, so let's move on with that. I've got no intentions of leaving. It's my effing house. I designed it and I built it. She can piss off and use the flat in town where she spends most of the week anyway. And in case you're wondering, we live in both places. London is horrible to bring up kids in, and you have to have a weekend place to get any space. I spend as much time in town during the week when the boys aren't around, so we see each other most days. We both use the flat during term time, just come back to Dorset at weekends and holidays with the boys. Boys are at boarding school during term time. I stay in Dorset during holidays when we are not away. I had no idea she wanted out. It's a total shock. We had couples therapy last year and were discharged by the counselor saying we could easily make it work. Perhaps she chose the leave then and has been working up to it. She didn't show any sign of tension when she got back and hasn't set foot in the office apart from dropping her bag. She tries to be very controlling, but I have always stood up to her. In her job, she's the boss and everyone jumps to her every whim. She was made a managing director 3 years ago and it's been worse since then. OP's edit. So I've calmed down a little and I'm more rational now. I won't trash her passport or do anything rash like employ a personal investigator, a visual audio recording, bug the flat, or serve her papers on Christmas morning. I will be having a meeting with my solicitor first thing tomorrow. I'm playing golf with him, just happens to be at the clubhouse and not the course. We were in counseling before because she did not like the fact I wouldn't bend to her will. She's a bully in almost all aspects of her life, but I never let her get away with it, which I guess is why she married me, as I was the first person to stand up to her. We started counseling after she crashed my car and feigned injury to stop me from doing a job in Dubai for 3 months because it clashed with school holidays and she couldn't afford the time to look after the boys. The flat is because she works in a high-stress, long-hours job in corporate law where getting back to Dorset is nigh on impossible. We tried living in London full-time, but it wasn't good for the boys, and in term time, I'm there most nights she is. Edit 2. Met with the solicitor this morning plus his team. Having read through her papers, he thought it was serious enough to bring in some specialist help. Basically, she's going to try to ambush me on everything and expects to win. Her words in an email she sent. Because she's so well prepared. It's her style and feels to them like it's been planned like a hostile takeover. Their advice is to do nothing outwardly, but get totally prepared for the moment she makes her move. Have papers ready to give to her and simultaneously send to her solicitors as soon as she tells me. On the house, because the flat is worth more than the house, she needs to establish sole custody to be able to get the house, to provide stability for the boys. Well, that's not going to happen. So for me, it's now time to hunker down, enjoy Christmas with the boys, then head off skiing knowing that everything is being done in the UK that can be ready for when she drops the bomb and then realizes I'm already in a bunker miles away, if that isn't too much of a mixed metaphor. Okay, so now that we've got all the context I could possibly find in this post, let's move on with the update to see how this whole thing went down. So Christmas came and went. Everything was normal apart from her father being extra snarky about everything and the two of them getting very drunk and plotting together on Christmas Eve. We went off skiing as planned and that went pretty much as normal. My soon-to-be ex spent more time away from the group, skiing on her own, shopping or at the spa, and this was commented on by a few of our friends. We traded more orgasms than normal, I can't say made love anymore. And it was much more animalistic than it's ever been. I think both of us were into it just for what we wanted, not the other one. The elder of our boys noticed something was different between us and asked about it. Soon-to-be ex put it down to how January was going to be a very big month. Cut to Sunday brunch. Her parents were around as normal, plus my brother and wife. We had all been to church together. Soon-to-be ex and her father disappeared off into the office when we got back as I prepared food with the boys and her mother. We sat down and after about 10 minutes of silence from soon-to-be ex, she said she has something to say to us all. In front of the boys and without speaking to me first, she announced that we no longer loved each other. We had tried to resolve the issues, but I was unwilling to compromise, and that we had decided to get divorced and that I would be moving out after the boys had returned to school. She then went into a spiel with the boys about how it was nothing to do with them, how she loved them just as much as she always has, and that mommy and daddy had been drifting apart for years, and that now was the right time to divorce for her. I sat silently and tried my hardest not to react. I wanted to throw everything on the table at her, including all the knives, but didn't. The only thing I did was hold my youngest son's hand. Once she had finished, I calmly suggested that perhaps the boys would like to go into the den with my brother and their grandparents, while I spoke to Mom alone. I then started to get up and go to the office to get out the papers pack that my lawyer had prepared. Her father then shouted at me that I was a coward walking away and I should face my wife like a man. I tried my hardest to be civil but ended up telling him to F off out of my house. Insults were traded as he just wouldn't back down, saying that I was a lousy husband, a terrible father, a crap businessman, basically the scum of the earth who only was allowed to marry his daughter because I got her pregnant and he didn't want to have a bastard in his family. He said I just dragged her down and was ruining her career and life. She just stood behind him crying. I was boiling by this point, so told them that I had known about their little plan for a while. I'd already had divorce papers drawn up on my own terms, and they were in for a rude awakening if they thought I was just going to roll over and give in to everything they demanded. Though it probably came out laden with expletives. The situation then got really nasty when soon-to-be ex in tears and shouting about how I was upsetting the boys and that I should just leave now. Her father shouting obscenities about me and my family, and her mother just in tears telling me to just leave and let them sort it out. I wouldn't leave and her father got really angry, then punched me in the face, knocking me down. My brother got between us and his wife called the police. The boys also got involved and pulled her father off me, but not before he kicked me a couple of times. I'm not small, but the punch and kicks really knocked me about. The only thing I can say is that I didn't hit back at all. Once he realized I wasn't going to fight back, he retreated with his daughter into her office. I went into the lounge and with my brother comforted the boys who were distraught. When the police and the paramedics arrived, my brother, who is a police officer himself, talked to them. Then they took statements from both sides, escorted my father-in-law off the premises and suggested that the best thing to do was for me to leave the house. By this time, I'd talked to the duty solicitor from my lawyers and they talked to the police and explained that I wouldn't be doing that. I went off to the hospital to get my injuries, broken nose and cracked ribs, sorted, and when I came back at about 7 p.m, my wife had left for London and her mother and my sister-in-law were with the boys. They were pretty upset, but mostly about the fight, not us splitting up. Both of them want to stay home this week and commute to school, so I can talk to them properly when they are back tonight. They were both really quiet this morning and my sister-in-law drove them to school. She teaches there. I didn't really sleep much, so went back to bed after the boys had gone and woke to a terse email from my soon-to-be ex giving a list of demands that she would have given me the day before if I'd been more reasonable. and complaining that my solicitors had already contacted her before we had a chance to talk about what she wanted. So divorce is happening, and I joined the many people that are starting the new year newly single. Wow, that was some Christmas, wasn't it? Now the posts end here, but of course I went digging through the comment section to see if I could find a little bit more information, so let's move on with that now and finish this whole thing up. Her father did her no favors, and she was relying on her parents to be able to care for the boys during holidays when she was working. That's not going to happen now, as he's proven to be violent. He really stuffed her sole custody run. In any case, I've already asked her to CC my solicitor's office in everything she sends me, and everything I'll send is CC into them. And I've already had a conversation with the lawyers about fees, so I'm not too worried. It's going to cost me upwards of £150,000, but in the long term, it's worth it. This is not going to go as unopposed as she assumed. Big wake up coming for her. There are no medical bills in the UK, it's a free NHS, and charges will be down to the police and CPS. I know he was interviewed under caution today, then arrested and released on police bail, so I can only assume that he'll be charged at some point once the CPS have talked to me. I've made a statement and my brother thinks they will prosecute as bones were broken. Her father will get a caution or be bound over to keep the peace. Unlikely it will come to anything else. Of course, we filed a restraining order against him and I'm currently waiting on the locksmith to change the locks because he has a key. We are waiting on her solicitors to tell us if she wants to continue to reside here whilst the divorce is resolved. At the moment, she's in London and then New York for the week. My soon-to-be ex is totally a daddy's girl, his princess to who he could never say no. He never thought I was good enough for his daughter. We met when I was working as a builder's mate at my dad's firm. He never got past that even though I went to a better public school than she did, got a much better degree, and now I'm a managing partner of a leading engineering consultancy, to him, I'll always be the builder who effed his daughter and forced her into a shotgun wedding. I was a student when I got her pregnant, and built just about everything up from scratch. My parents are wealthy, but I've never had a penny from either of them since leaving school. In case you're curious, here are the demands I got in the email. Full sole custody, both house and flat, me to move out within a week, an uncontested divorce, all joint assets, half of my assets, with no mention of her assets, which are at least equal to mine. £75,000 per year to support the kids, including hiring a full-time housekeeper to maintain the house. £15,000 per year in school fees to pay for university for both boys. Access to my partnership accounts and full disclosure of all upcoming and pipeline deals. A detailed list of individual items, including most of my first edition books and all Lewis Carroll litho prints, plus a variety of other things. Oh, and my balls. She basically wants me to become a cash cow. I've got my suspicions that daddy's money is running out, and she knows she can't keep up her lifestyle without it. We've always had separate accounts and finances, just sharing the common expenses, but she spends way more than she earns and always has. Her inherited assets are all tied up in land and property, so she won't be very liquid. In any case, the calculations that my solicitors have done say it's a zero net sum. If there is no child support, then she will keep all of her money, I will keep all of mine, and we part. When it comes down to it, she's peaked, and daddy isn't as rich as he makes out to be. The firm is still growing, so next year I could draw 10 times what she makes if I wanted to, so she's banking on future earnings to get a good settlement now. Also, she didn't offer any concessions, only that her father may continue to pay the school fees if I cooperated, and I could have time to move my office out of the house if I agreed to a quick transfer of assets. Sadly, I don't think there will be any winners in this, only losers. If she's come to me and said she wanted a divorce, I wouldn't have stood in her way. It's not something I would have started, but I'll want to get out of this as cheaply as I can and move on. We should have gotten divorced last year when we went through counseling and she would not accept that there was anything wrong with the way she treated me. I thought it was best to stay for the boys. How wrong I was. Once I knew she was planning divorce, I knew it would get pretty horrid pretty quickly, as she's very vindictive. As for my boys, I spent a lot of time talking to them last night. They are upset and traumatized by the events of Sunday. I was pretty knocked up last night and they were very quiet this morning. I'll see them at 7 and we can talk then. My sister-in-law says both have been very quiet at school today. Not surprising, really. Their mom has also been in contact with them loads, telling them how bad a person I am and how their grandpa still loves them, but daddy is stopping him from seeing them. I'll talk to the school about getting them time with a counselor so they have their own space to talk.